right, guys, how we doing? Sam here with you. It's July 4th. So a happy Independence Day to all of our U.S. viewers or members here. So we're going to take a look at Litecoin. So we did the polling here. We threw it open to all asset classes today, and Litecoin was our leader. So we're going to get into this in just a sec here. But before I do, just for those of you watching on YouTube, we do have this little promo going on today. So well, actually, we'll run it for the weekend. So it'll run. We'll run it through Sunday evening. But this, a little promo for the weekend: 25% off of a 4-month membership, and then 15% off of all our other memberships. So you can find this over on our Twitter feed with the little codes that you'll need to put in to get that discount to kick in on when you're checking out. So just a reminder here, a little something we can offer to you over the weekend. So there you go. All right, that said, let's get back over to Litecoin. Now, so I'm getting more and more bullish, right? So I'm as big a bull as anyone, but I'm getting more and more bullish based on the price action that we're seeing here. So now we're going to get into the count in a sec here, but just a quick review here. So we can see the algo has been very, very persistent here, of course. This is the one that gets us, it looks like this gets us our low. So from the 50 here, you can see that the tap, they tap the first target here. We get this little reaction, but ultimately it looks like it's second target, and likely that's a slight front run here. It's a few dollar front run. That looks like that's what gets us. So that being established, now we're just going to use that again as our, let me get it right on there. So if you could, from that pivot, which we know an algorithm use, so of course we would check all of them. This one, the 65 is already broken, so we go back to this, which we know was used, and now we're hovering, we're through the 50, but we're not, next target, we got to get up through that 65. If we break that 65, then we'll go here, and then here's the big kahuna right here, right? Interesting, like as this roadmap develops here, that's potentially a target. So the big number there is, let's call it 250, a break over 250, and then we're in the clear with no resistance. But until then, all of these have to be worked through. So with that established, now you can see here, I've just wicked off the lows here and see how this seems to be very consistent. It's between 106 and 110. So if I zoom in down here, you can see how this has yet again just become potentially, now we've tapped the front edge of it here, and then you can see over in the volume profile, you have a little divot here where we just don't have market acceptance. So it's come down here and tapped here, and then we're getting this reaction from it. So per the count, as it sits here right now, this may be a little easier to see in log scale. So I'm going to pop this into log now that we have our, at least the levels are correct here from TradingView. So off of the low here, I think the 1, 2, this is the question mark area. Let's see if I like this. No, we'll stay in log here. This is the question mark area because we have to allow for this very shallow 4 relative to the 1, 2. So just testing here the new tool. Yeah, they do have it right. Okay, so whoops, too hot. All right, so this is our 3 here. Because I can get a clear impulse from the 2 low here, I've got a clear impulse. It's a very tiny little ABC here. We don't even make the 23. So you look, right, it's the area. So as you guys have seen me do this before, I'll just kind of put a little highlight around this and say, if this count starts to break down and we're back to revisit, this is the area that I want to come back to just to double check here that this isn't what's creating the problem here. Because so as you look at it, your eye wants to do this. You want to go, oh, what's the big deal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right now, granted, I am in log scale here, so even if I take it out, it looks like, oh, so what's the problem? Well, if you actually work through the subdivision, it doesn't quite work because I have an impulse here I can't ignore. Right, and it's perfectly technical. The symmetry is beautiful. So I've got something here that completes. So now, right, as we do this, now we kind of work backwards to try and get the count here. So I can't, based on what follows, it wouldn't make sense for this to be. Oh, I don't even know how you try and count this. so you couldn't go 1 2 1 2. So really the only thing left is a 3 with a shallow sideways 4, and then the big kick here is in the 5. It's a little bit unusual, so I highlight that as an area that is a bit suspect. But that said, now, given what we can see that has followed here, I guess I can take this off here with that established here just to clear up the chart. There is no easy answer here because the 2 is a bit elusive. So if we've got our completed 1 wave in here, get right on there. Well, if I've got a 1, well, look what I got to deal with here. So this is something similar that we're seeing in Bitcoin. If we're going to continue to run, we've got a contender here for the 2 at the 38. And again, it's not that we never see them. It's just, it's somewhat unusual, but strength of the market. Note we come right, look how the Vegas wave has just caught this all the way up. Just beautiful. So here, if this is the 2, well, you can work through it and say, well, would that fit per what follows? Well, coming off of that 2, let's dig down into there a little bit more. I'm on an 8-hour here, so let's go down to the 2-hour. Oh shit, I don't need to be on log scale here. So if this is, if that on the proposal here that I've got a 1 here and that I can get an A, B, C down to my 2. Well, coming off of that, now again, it's a little tricky in here because we've got, so looking at it, you want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But it doesn't fit because we can see what follows. So we're working backwards to try and get clarity on the count on the way up to help us identify where we are over here. So coming up, despite the fact, so sorry guys, excuse me, that your eye wants to do this. You want to do that. I go, okay, well there we're done. Well, that would make sense except per what follows. So you have to dig in here and say, well, okay, if that's not the 5, because I've got, see, your thinking would have been that it was 3 and the 5 was here. But since that wouldn't make sense per what we see that follows, you got to work through it backwards and say, oh, okay, well, can I work backwards and get that to fit? Well, I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. So I've got an impulse here. I've got a correction here. It's skinny 2, but I can get an impulse here. A tiny little 2, 3, 4, look, classic 4, up for the 5. Now working backwards, I got 3 here. Can I get an impulse here? Well, it's kind of the same problem. Oh shit, let's see. Let me go down to a 30 so you can see it a little better. Get over here. Okay, come back here. Okay, so coming off of this. So you got to really, it's a bit of a stretch. I get it. Push this off here. So coming up, you got to do it this way. If this is 1, 2, you got to go 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5. Now let me get that all the way down. We'll go to minuscule. I'll put that in yellow so it'll pop out a little bit more. So very skinny. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Plenty there for the 5. A, B, C. Well, actually it looks like I got to do an A, B, C into the A, 3. This is a stretch. Tricky, right? So they all break down at some point, but you're going to have to go 1, 2. Shit, that is really brutal there. Yep, you'd have to do it. You'd have to play it as a diagonal there, so that's just ugly all around. So this is a bit problematic here because you've got a 3, 3, 1, 2. Oh yeah, I guess you can do it. Barely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So at least I can finish with that little. I guess we could do it this way as well. I guess we could do it this way here. So you can finish with a. So you don't get the overlap here. So you can get a little impulse to come down from this. It's ugly no matter how you slice that. But again, per what follows, you really don't have any other alternate there to give that. It's shallow. It looks like the algo was in play here, but doesn't get target. So from this, here's our 50, but we get denied. So it looks like something stopped it there. So we can just, as you work through this can be useful because, I'm so sorry guys, fucking allergies are bad today. So God darn it, I'm so sorry. If I look here from this pivot, it looks to me like another algo stopped it. So if I look here, mighty close. We get that right on there. So we're a tick. boy, that's a couple of ticks through the golden zone. My guess is that what this is pushing to get to that target. They run into this algo here because here's a dominant to a dominant. We run into the golden zone. Looks like this is the push to get to the target that gets denied for whatever reason. They stay with it, or even if they stopped, eventually they'd be back on the next 50. So it looks like that's what they run into before that rips up here to give us our 5. And again, it's a very skinny. I mean, it is as skinny as it can be for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can probably barely see that, but as you bring it up on your chart, it's there. But boy, is it a stretch to call that a 1-2. Yet, take it down, well, I'm on a 30, take it down to a 5-minute, that'll pop a little more, or maybe even in log scale. Well, not much improvement there. This is just a squirrely section here. So you got to make do with it. So I'm not inclined to call this something else. So I've got the structure is a 3. Coming off of that, there's my 5 into this pivot, which I think plays better as the 3 at this degree. So coming off of this 2, so now look at, oh shit, let me put it back together. So now looking at that 2 relative to this, so if we're pulling here on the idea that I've got the 3, now I'm pulling from the 3, oh shit, let me clear this up. Okay, what do we do? 50 to the tick. Okay, so from dominant to dominant, so I'm playing now with my Elliott hat on, from the 2 to the 3 down to the 4. Am I to the tick? God, that's 1 tick off of it. So I got the 4 right here. So now this starts to make more sense to me. So I come up here, yeah, I'm not to the tick on the target, but I certainly clear it. Perhaps something else is in play here. So yet again, you got to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like that was in play as well. So on a smaller degree. Third target, hard to say. It looks like from this, if this is our, shit, come here. This is our 2. A little skinny, that could be at play there. Hard to call that, but it looks like I've got something that's completed here. So this impulse, it looks like I've got a completed impulse off of this 2. Come here. So 1, 2, there's the 3, 4, 5. I complete something here. Okay, so here's the impulse that I'm working off of. Right, symmetry's perfectly good. All very nice. Now here it looks like I've got an expanded flat here. So I've got an A wave, A, B, C into the B, and then I'm coming down here. God, these are just, they're not shaping beautifully. So it looks like 1, 2, you got to go 3, 4, 5. God, you probably can't even see that. So, oh, what am I, 1 hour here. So if I zoom in here a little bit better, I know that I made these small here, but let's go up a degree so you can see them. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, you'd have to trade it this way on the assumption that we're done. There's a little A, B, C, but you got no 5, right? So you don't get much of a 5 to finish here. So, this is potentially another place to just to highlight it and say, little suspect here. Little bit, if this count starts to break down, I might have to be coming back here to revisit this area because I've got kind of an unresolved 5 there. So just a spot I want to highlight if I've got to come back here. Now coming off of that, it does look like I can get an impulse yet again. So here, this with a little bit better shaping here, so I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4 again with the shitty 5. Right? There's no way. Good luck digging anything out of there. So you might do the same here and say just potentially like these are areas of concern because the separation is just not quite right. Yet I don't want to discount it or say, well, I don't like it enough to call it an impulse. There is an impulse in there. So I'm going to hold with that as the 1. So off of this low immediately, right? So this is very deep for the 2, unusually deep. Actually, this is the lower pivot. So we're pushing the envelope here, but technically it's an internal. As long as we stay above this pivot, we've got an internal retracement. It's a bit steep on that, so it looks like, oh geez, looks like you got to go A, B, C into that. So there's 5 coming down. So again, here's a little problematic area here. We've got not much of a C wave. So all of this is just a little bit. Do I like it enough to trade it? Well, you know, these are areas, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. But so if you take a stop here and you're back to visiting this count, wicking off these little areas is not a bad thought, just in terms of potentially a problem here. You know, we wicked off that one earlier where there's potentially, now if I'm revisiting this count, I'm going to come back here and rethink this here. Although, given the depth of that, I don't see another way that we could. That's going to be tricky unless this turns into. So you can look at it right now and say the potential here, given the impulse in here, if this is going to do something like this, well, we could have a WXY, certainly, that would make more sense. So if this is going to be ABC and we're going to get an ABC here that's not going to go into an impulse, we've got a contender here for a WX, and then we'd be looking for the Y to set up a more traditional correction, a deeper correction. Let me say it that way. If this is going to go into a 3 and we're not going to get the impulse that at this point this count is set up for, if we don't get the break here and we come up here, challenge these highs, and we fail, well, then it kind of looks like ABC into a W, ABC into an X, and then we'd be looking for the ABC to bring us back down. But now, where's our target? All right, are we pulling from the 2? Or this is going to be the problem. Are we pulling from the 2, or are we pulling from the absolute low? Which, did I mark off the absolute low? Let's get that. Oh, looks like that's my absolute low. I'm going to change that color just so we don't lose track of it. Okay, so that's my absolute low. So if I'm going to come back, let's try 4 hours. Okay, so since I've got that tagged, if I come up here and I'm going to run out of steam, and it looks, well, let's see if this is, we can use the dominant, right? Algo doesn't care about an Elliott count. If this is going to be a WX and we're coming down for a Y, well, this is the traditional area you'd be looking for your 2 in. Right, so maybe this count has to be reconsidered. But as I have it right now, right, so I'm kind of taking you through the alternates just because there are areas here that are a bit suspect, right? So we marked off this one's a bit suspect, the one we just looked at. There's areas here where you go, okay, I don't have just a tremendous amount of confidence in it, but per the count, as I can get it identified now, I think it's 1, 2, 1, 2. So at the larger degree, I know it's a little hard to see. I think we've got 1, 2, and then yet again 1, 2. So 1, expanded B wave, A, B, C. We've got another 1, 2, and we're still going. So that is extremely bullish. Now, you think about Litecoin, we know the halving is coming. So I'm inclined to go with this until proven otherwise. Until this count breaks down, I don't see any reason not. Now, the big tell will be, let's get this out of here. This will be the tell. How do we come in? You know, if it's going to happen this weekend, we got to go up and challenge these highs. If we get through, now here's the first algo target. Here's the bigger one. Well, that wouldn't be relevant at this degree. So here's the one we're looking at right now. If we are correcting this, and this is off of this low, if it's 1, 2, 1, 2, well, we're expecting a lot bigger of a move here. If that's the 2 at the next degree, well, here's your 1, 6, 1, 8. So we could, I know it's hard to see here. I'm going to open this up in a second. But just from the low, if I take that low here to the proposed 1, from the proposed 2, well, here's your target for your third, the 1, 6, 1, 8. If we're going to get a true 1, 2, and a big 3, so all of this potentially moves higher. Now, we don't know. So here's 100. So this would qualify it as a third here at this degree. If we're going to go 1, 2, well, at least we got to make the 100 to have a contender for the third. So we could leave it here, which is kind of where I had it, just so we knew potentially I've got a candidate for the third coming off of this. So we're going to need some bullish action. Now, let me get to where you can see this again. Let's go back to the hourly. Okay, so if it's 1, 2, 1, 2, and this is yet again a 1, 2, which is the way I'm reading this. Then we need, so if this is the 2, we absolutely got to have a motive wave come off of here. Do we have that yet? Well, we got the start on something, but that certainly doesn't look like we've got enough there to call it anything other than at this point just a 3 wave. So as we look at it, well, there's 1, 2, could be the 3's getting started. Do we have anything technical? My guess is likely, right? So here's golden zone. Just looking at it, you can almost see how consistent that is. So if I get right on here, right on my low. Not much of a 1 in there. It doesn't. So best case here, if that's 1, 2, then you're going to have to trade this as an impulse, which is fine in the first wave here. We could certainly have an A, B, C into a 1, 2. So we could have a leading diagonal here. Now to some degree, this is going to be, we're going to need a little more oomph here in this. Okay, so we're a tick shy of the 100. I get that right on there. So we're not quite here to the 100. This is going to be 1, 2. 1, 2, maybe. This is going to need some legs here to get up here and for us to feel better about this as a 1, 2, 3. So per coming in here, again, I know it's a little hard to see in here. We're going to need to see something like this come out of here. So let me get this stuff off of here so we can see it a little better. All right, so 1, let's wick that potential, that proposed. Right now it's just a candidate for the 1. Put that back in yellow. All right, so contender 1, 2, maybe, right? But of course, right, this could easily just pivot and come back around if we're going to see weakness over the weekend. Now what have we got? Now it's starting to look more like the correction is still not done, so maybe we got to work this as a, can we get it? Yeah, you could get this into an A wave. So you could have, Jesus, you could do it. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. It wouldn't overlap. So I was trying to get a diagonal in there, but if this is 1, 2, looks like 1, 2, 3. No, it's going to be an impulse. So you can get an impulse in here. So let me, having made that point. So we've got a contender here. So look at it this way. It could be done this way. So you could go 1, 2. Shit, you'd have to, let me take this off. Get out of there. So you've got the possibility here. Shit, sorry. That you've got this 4, 5 down here. So then, so you get an impulse. We don't, God damn it, come here. Don't overlap here as the 4. And just looking at it, looks like that's likely technical. Okay, so here's the 50. We're spared the overlap. So it's really tough to make a call here in the very near term because we could get this. You could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into an A wave, A, B, C, not much of a C. So this actually starts to look a little bit better, but I'm still with an internal retracement. So we can do the alternate on the fly here. So if this is an A and we're going up for the B, then we're looking for the C. Let's get that degree up. We can go to minuet. So do you see what potentially is in play here? And how do you know? You're not going to know until we get more information. So this potentially is an ABC. Let's go to micro and put that in blue. So you've got an alternate right shaping up here as we're watching this. So how will we know? Well, this is going to, if it's going to stay as a 1, 2, because we stay internal here, we're going to need a big kick here, right, to get this to shape up as at least a motive wave here. If it's going to, we're going to see softness here, then that looks more like what's likely going on here. So then we'd pull here looking for that B, be anywhere from 50 to 786. So we've got a zone here. Golden zone, obviously we want to pay attention to that, and then you start shaping it up just as we would with anything, right? If we're going to get a golden zone here, and let me tighten this down a bit. So if we're going to get potentially a golden corner here, certainly a possibility. All right, let's get the B would be on top here. Now we're looking down here. All right, so this I'll put this aside because that's an alternate here that this is shaping as a 1, 2 relative to this as the 1, this being the 2. All right, so I know I'm probably getting a little confusing here, but we'll go through it again. So from potentially now a corner pocket here, but shit, the corner could be in now. Could be in here. We don't know. Right? I'm just kind of using the potential here. If this has got one more little kick for it, then we're in the golden zone. Then we're looking down, 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 somewhere down here. That would put us back. So here, look where the target is. Look at the target right at the 50. So could that be the ABC here? If so, this is going to need to happen pretty quickly. Put us at 2. We'd have 2 days to do that. I'm on a 1-hour chart. Certainly possible. All right. We don't know. That could be it right here. And then now we're looking at it here. All right. If this is going to go a little further and we get the golden corner, then we got that. right? No, if you're shorting here, I would not, I would be very disciplined on that stop. Maximum, the 786, maximum to give it. All right, if you're playing on the short, in my opinion, right, you should do what you like, but I wouldn't give that, let me say it that way, I would not give that a tick beyond the 786. Well, how about this? I wouldn't give it 3 or 4 ticks, but I'd be very close to that. Because the assumption is that this ABC, so you could also look at it this way. So length of the A projected from the proposed B, here's the 100 right at the golden zone. Right, common. Now, we could go 272. That's not uncommon for a B relative to the A. So this would give you your last stand here, right? If we're gonna look for the pivot to come down for the C, here's your last stand for that B before you have to come back to, oh, maybe it's 1, 2, and now we're into some sort of a motive wave. Looks like an ugly diagonal, and this is kicking higher, so we're back to 1, 2. Really, because of the poor separation here, the subdivision is open to interpretation. It's really hard to be, well, it's almost impossible to be definitive about where we are in the count here. So now you pull back and you go, okay, well, per the larger degree, what do I think is happening? Am I bullish or bearish? Now this, right, so it's tough to make a call in here, yet for the longer term, I'm a bull. So I'm looking for opportunities to be a buyer. So my absolute favorite here is right here where I've got this overlap here of an algo target at the 50. So I've got nice confluence. I also have a little structure here from this prior pivot here. I could use this. So look what's happening here. I'm getting the structure of these pivots is outlining my buy zone right here already. Now I know that's impossible to see. I know you can't see it. So we're in a bit of a cluster here. We're no way to know. Until this breaks out of this zone, we're just in a bit of a fib fight. So from this swing low, I guess we can get this off here. From this swing low, if I get this dialed in to that pivot, we're not to the 50 yet. I like this. I like it at the 50 here. That would change the count. So the 2, do you see what would happen here? The 2 would move over. God, I know that's really hard to see. Let me pull this out of here. Let me just clear some of this up so we can see it a little better. Okay, let's get this out of here. So just to the larger degree, potential would be if we're gonna sell off, and this is gonna become the 2, right? So we're pulling from here 1, 2, right? So it fits better. It's staying with the idea that the move off the low is putting in the 1, 2, and then we're going into yet another 1, 2 where you'd expect to see this 2 at the 50 or the 618. So it makes more sense if this is going to go 1, 2. But that means that in here, if we take out this low, then likely we've got a WXY, and we're looking for this to come down in 3. So W, right? If this is going to go X, then we'd be looking for the Y to bring it down. Let's put that here just so it stands out a little bit. Put that in. Here we'll put it in white. Okay, so here, if that ABC, if this low is broken, then you're thinking ABC here, and we're expecting this to come down into an ABC to give us the completed WXY for the 2 here at the 50 to the 618, and that sets up the big move coming out of here up for the 3 at this degree. But take note, that's the 3 at the lower degree. So this is 1, 2, 1, 2. The 3 at this degree is still going in way, way, way up here. All right, so now you come all the way back to where are those early targets when we were first looking at this. And you think, okay, I got to get beyond the big daddy up here. All right, so this is 250. So if this is going to be the big 3, if this is going to be the 3 here, then we've got the potential for this to be just setting up beautifully. All right, there's your big 5. So then the symmetry starts to make more sense. So then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just kind of free drawing that. So the timeline, so this might take a little bit more. All right, I'm just kind of eyeballing this here. Something like that. Fits in pretty nicely. All right, so we get something along those lines. So now you have nice symmetry. So 1, 2, still working on the 3. We're in the 3rd of this 2 at the largest degree for the 4, 5. I know that's very bullish, right? It makes sense. Keep an eye on this, because the underlying fundamentals, it's just the supply and demand of it for Litecoin, with that having, I should say. I like it. Can't say I don't. All right, there you go. There's plenty to chew on it. I kind of went long here. It's kind of a slow day, so I guess I'm overly talkative. There you go. Well, don't forget, right? So come over here, take advantage of this if you want to get more detail, and come join us within the TDU University. That's the place to do it. Save yourself a little dough. All right, guys, have an excellent 4th, and well, members, I may be back with one more. Okay, talk to you.